Good morning, Chuck. I'm liking you more and more all the time. Those are great numbers.
You like the poll numbers, I'm guessing. Let me start.
I certainly do.
These polls don't really mean anything at this stage, George. You're a veteran of campaigns, and I'm not sure the mid-September winners are where you want to be, obviously.
I would say listen to what I actually say when I have an opportunity to say it in something other than a one-minute soundbite.
Couple of new polls out today, both of which have Donald Trump with the easy lead for the 2016 Republican primary. But is Marco Rubio right? Is it all meaningless this early in the race? Joining me now is Avik Roy, former advisor to Rick Perry's suspended presidential campaign and healthcare advisor to Mitt Romney's 2012 campaign. Avik is also an opinion editor at Forbes and a senior fellow at the Manhattan Institute, which makes you one busy guy. Adding this to your duties today. Thank you for joining me. Avik, first of all, now that your candidate is out of the running, whom are you going to support?
Well, I haven't made a decision on that, but I would say that there is this contest right now in the conservative movement in the Republican Party as to what kind of a party does the Republican Party want to be. Does it want to be identity politics for white people, or does it want to stand for the principle that individual liberty is something that will make life better for all people of all backgrounds and all incomes? And I think the candidates that are making that latter case are the ones that are going to attract not only my support, but the support of most Americans.
Okay, and who are those candidates that you saw doing that? They're going to attract a more diverse crowd under the tent, so to speak.
Well, I think you saw it in that debate last week, right? So, for example, there was a moment when Donald Trump was criticizing Jeb Bush for speaking Spanish to someone on the campaign trail, and both Governor Bush and Senator Rubio went out of their way to say, look, we want to speak Spanish to people who speak Spanish to us. That way they our message directly instead of hearing it through the filter of the media. I think it's not just about that. You know, it's about relatability. People who are immigrants to this country, African Americans, they have often a very different experience in America than people who are here traditionally. And that's something that I think as a politician, if you can relate to that, if you can understand that experience, that matters a lot more than even what policies you advocate. And there are people in this race on the Republican side who are drawing those contrasts and relating to people of all backgrounds. I think that's really important.
Yeah, you know, Avik, you wrote a column following the debate, and I liked it because you went out on a limb, writing that you expect the GOP nominee to be either Bush, Christie, or Rubio. Look, they are significantly down in the polls, though, compared to the outsiders like Trump, Carson. You also put in there Fiorina as being the ones that people are interested in if you're looking for an outsider. But when do you think that is going to change? When do you think among those three that you named will become front runners?
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing you have to remember is that we're very, very early in the race, and I don't just mean that from a calendar standpoint. Think about it this way. None of the candidates have run negative ads against any of the other candidates. So Jeb Bush, for example, his super PAC has, what, $100 million or something on the sidelines waiting to be deployed. So people haven't really vetted the records of these outsiders in the way that will happen as the campaign really gets into full swing. And I think when you look at Trump and Carson and Fiorina, look, when they're on the stage, when they're in front of the camera, there are many things about them that are appealing. But I think once you get into their records and their backgrounds, the bloom may come off the rose, or at least it won't be as perfect as it looks today. And some of those other candidates with actual governing and legislative experience will rise to the fore. People who have solutions for the real problems, the real challenges that Americans are facing today. So
what about the major issue in the debate, which was Planned Parenthood and the prospect of Republicans again shutting down the government over its funding? And that was an issue in the last one. However, that being said, does that play well for Republicans?
You know, I mean, there is a group of activists who really believe that we should shut down the government, or we should risk precipitating a shutdown in order to defund Planned Parenthood. As some of the people in the debate argued, you could put that in a bill and the president vetoes it, then could do something else. But I think one thing that's very important for conservatives to understand is the president is a Democrat who doesn't support the defunding of Planned Parenthood, and that limits your ability to actually achieve a lot of your goals, whether it's Planned Parenthood or anything else fiscally. So I think conservatives need to be a little bit more realistic about what you can achieve in divided government and be more strategic.
So are you saying it's a waste of time to push this Planned Parenthood defunding and shutting down the government?
Well, I don't think it's a waste of time to put in a bill, but so have the president veto it, and then do what you have to do to keep the government open from a bipartisan standpoint. You're not going to get everything you want in life when you have divided government, so try to move the ball down the field, get a first down. Don't feel like you have to score a touchdown on every little piece of legislation.
Okay. Talk about Ben Carson here, who was on Meet the Press this morning, and he spoke about religion. Take a listen to this.
Should a president's faith matter? Should your faith matter to voters?
Well, I guess it depends on what that faith is. If it's inconsistent with the values and principles of America, then of course it should matter. But if it fits within the realm of America and consistent with the Constitution, no problem.
So do you believe that Islam is consistent with the Constitution?
No, I don't. I do not. I would not advocate that we put a Muslim in charge of this nation. I absolutely would not agree with that.
Avik, does this do any widespread damage to either Ben Carson or the Republican Party?
Well, let's just talk about the substance for a minute. So Article 6, I believe, of the Constitution specifically prohibits a religious test for public office. So Ben Carson is someone who believes in the Constitution, should want to uphold that principle when it comes to Muslims seeking public office in the United States. And I hope that that people who care about the Constitution ask him about that as we go forward. Does it hurt the Republican Party? No, because I think, again, what we're seeing here is this split, right, this division where the candidates who really do want to reach out to minorities and immigrants and African Americans are making a point of doing that. And I think that's allowing them, what's happening with Trump and some of these other candidates is allowing them to separate themselves from that kind of rhetoric. I think that's really important. We remember 23 years ago when Bill Clinton had his famous Sister Soldier moment where he pushed back against some of the radical left-wing rhetoric at the time. I think you're seeing Republicans do something similar in terms of the nativist impulse that Donald Trump and others are cultivating. And I think that's a good thing. And I think when one of those candidates is a nominee, that'll make a big difference.
All right, Avik Roy, good to see you. Thanks so much. We'll see you again.
Thanks, Alex.